I'm going to answer 4 common questions I get quite a lot. They are: what do you do for work? What do you do for your work-life balance living off-grid? Is it cheaper living off-grid? And why did I start YouTube? So first question, what do you do for work? I work as a filmmaker, a freelance filmmaker, and that is very much on a level of commercial kind of work. I do a bit of wildlife work. I've worked for the likes of BBC Earth and Springwatch and things like that on the wildlife side. And then I do commercial jobs, which are generally films for small companies that want to advertise their business or product or whatever it might be. So what that allows me to do is work intensely for a period of time, whether it's a couple of days or a week or a month or a couple of months. And then I get time off. So it gives me quite a lot of flexibility. The filming I do is very much different to the filming that I do on my YouTube channel. The idea with the filming on the YouTube channel is to make it quite sustainable. Generally my film work that I do as a job is a lot more cinematic, has a lot more production value than the films that I put out on YouTube. One of the reasons that my film work is different on YouTube than it is to my work filming is that I wanted to make YouTube sustainable. I wanted to put out quite a bit of content, and in order to do that I needed to make it realistic and easier to edit. So a lot of the stuff that I do for YouTube is very much fixed camera work on a tripod, and a lot of work I do for my freelance work is very much quite dynamic cinematic work with gimbals and long lenses and all sorts of things. So filming for YouTube is a different beast to filming commercial work and wildlife work. Some people would disagree, but for me it needs to be sustainable. So it's very much a different filming style. Question 2, is living off-grid cheaper than not living off-grid? This is a really good question, and it's not a simple answer. I can only give you my personal experience on it. And just to set the record straight, Off-Grid Path is very much a channel about becoming off-grid. So I'm not technically off-grid, but I'll list what I am doing at the moment with off-grid. My heating is solely from a log burner or a wood stove, and that heats the cabin. I don't have any other form of heating. The water is from a borehole. Electricity is very much on the grid, so I'm on the grid connected to electricity, and that's pretty much it, I think. In terms of, my stove, for cooking is gas, so it's LPG. I'm actually going to do a separate post on this question and go through the costs and everything involved with living the way I'm living, not quite off-grid, but hoping to be at some point, because I think it's quite interesting. I think a lot of people think it would be cheaper, and I'm finding that it is. However, it really depends on how you manage it and what you choose to spend your time doing. So firewood is a great example. I need firewood for the winter specifically to heat my home. So I've got 2 options available to me. I can either buy firewood or I can procure it myself. Obviously, procuring it yourself is going to take time, effort, some tools. So I kind of balance that out. Let's say, for example, a load of firewood, 2.5 cubic meters, 300 pounds-ish. I might have got that wrong, but let's just use 300 pounds as an example. How much time would that amount of wood, 300 pounds worth of wood, how much time would that take me to procure from woodland that I might have connections with? And does that reflect my hourly rate when I work? So is it more efficient for me to go and work as a filmmaker to make 300 pounds to buy firewood, or do I not work as a filmmaker and spend that time procuring that amount of firewood? I think it would take me longer and it would take more man hours for me to procure 300 pounds worth of wood than it would for me to buy 300 pounds worth of wood. So in theory, it's cheaper for me to work in my day job and buy that wood. I personally quite enjoy chopping wood and things, so I try and get a balance, and when I've got the opportunity to procure wood, I will, purely out of the enjoyment. It's not necessarily a financial gain, even though I'm not paying for that wood. I am just enjoying the process of acquiring that wood. So in terms of is living off grid cheaper? I don't know. I'm going to do a much more in-depth film about that and go into the cost day by day, and I'll put that up. Question 3, how do you balance work life and living off grid? So again, this comes down to your own personal preference. Living off grid, people have different kind of definitions of living off grid, and it's quite a broad spectrum of what off grid is. Some people think it is just not being connected to the mains grid in terms of electricity and water and things like that, which technically I think the definition is, but some people will take that further, and off grid will be everything. You can get the kind of extremists that will be, I don't want to be connected to anything in the real world. That's the kind of spectrum of off grid. So it really depends where you are. For me, I like to live a relatively normal life, but my goal for being off grid is to not rely on the grid, on the government. You know, I want to be in control of my energy resources, because that's what I want to do, and that would make me feel more empowered as a person and self-reliant in that respect. So I try and find a healthy balance. I mean, the beauty of my job is that when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm not, I'm not. By that, I mean, I don't have consistent work. I'm not working Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 as a, stereotypical example. There's pros and cons to that. Obviously, one, you don't have a consistent income. One month you could earn lots, another month you could earn nothing. So it really depends on how comfortable you are with that uncertainty of finances coming in. Consistent income has incredible benefits, but also you're sacrificing a bit of time there as well. So for me, I balance my work life with the living situation I have by, when I go to work, I am at work. There's nothing else going on. It's not like I'm working Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, and I'll work on a Wednesday and then go out for dinner with friends on a Wednesday evening. That doesn't happen. When I work, and I work long days, and I work until that project is done. So if you want to talk about a work-life balance, it's probably very unbalanced, because I either work or I don't work. It's as simple as that. For me, that works, and that's what I've done all my life. I've worked on oil rigs, and I've worked as a mountain guide, and I've done these things where you go away to work, and when you come back, you're not working. I find for me that works the best, because I can separate work and life. I'm not very good, and I have tried it in the past, where I work a job where you are working and living kind of at the same time, and my brain's not wired that way. I'm very focused when I'm working, and when I'm not working, I'm very focused not working. So that's how I balance it. It's not necessarily the kind of mainstream way, but I struggle with the mainstream way. So I do pockets of work, and then I have time off, and that's it. I kind of keep them very separate. And the last question, why did you start YouTube? Which is a good question. When I did the cabin, I had no experience whatsoever in building or renovation or doing anything like that, and YouTube was pretty much 90 to 95% my sole kind of resource to find all of that information that I needed to complete that project, and it was incredibly helpful. And I had a lot of respect for people who are putting up those videos to basically inform other people that wanted to do a similar thing. And I really like that concept. I like the concept of community, and finding like a niche within YouTube to just share what I've learned. And it might not be the best knowledge, but it's some knowledge of what I've learned, and you could pair that with something else, someone with better knowledge. It's a fantastic search tool to find what you want. So that's one aspect. Two, I enjoy making films. I enjoy this lifestyle in terms of bushcraft and camping and off-grid living, and I want to do it more. And three, it would be great at some point down the line to be able to monetize what I'm doing with YouTube and try to create, I don't want to say passive income because it's not, it's so much work to put into YouTube, and I'm finding that, you know, day by day that actually it's a lot of work. Luckily for me, I am a filmmaker, so I understand that side of it. I'm very quick at editing, which makes that end of the whole YouTube thing very easy for me. I don't have to really think about that, and I can edit videos quite quickly. So the thing that I have to think about is what the content is, which is something that I'm less good at, but I'm enjoying the process. So it's really one, because I enjoy it, two, because it would be nice to create some kind of income from it and sort of diversify what I'm doing as a day job. And one of the things that I found in COVID, which is I think a lot of people found, is that my job is not necessary. It's not a job that needs to be done. In fact, it's actually quite useless when it comes down to it. And COVID was fantastic at kind of separating people doing, don't want to use the word meaningful, but jobs that are essential to people's lives, whether it's you know, medical workers, whether it's construction, whether, you know, food, whatever it is, things that people need. And then you've got people like me, which are very much linked to industry that is not, it's kind of a luxury industry. To make films is not necessary for people. It's one of the first things that a company will drop because they need to tighten down on their spending, so they won't hire someone to make a film because it's not entirely necessary, and they will focus on the things that are necessary to bring in money to pay their staff. It's as simple as that. So it's partly to try and diversify, to see if I can make some money from YouTube, which would be fantastic, to be able to just cushion a bit of income. And it's not just YouTube. I'm trying to diversify my skills in other areas as well to kind of mitigate against anything happening to lose my sole income. I think it's very important to be able to have contingencies and not all of your eggs in one basket. So there are 4 questions answered. If you've got any more, then please feel free to just write them down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to do a video and answer them. Thanks for watching.